Today we're going to relate distances on a number line to subtraction and absolute value. So our objective is, I can understand that finding the distance between two numbers on a number line can be found by taking the absolute value of their difference. So what I first want to look at is finding the distance between -4 and 3 on the number line. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find the distance from -4 to 3, and we're going to use a number line to help us. So if I looked here and I was at -4 and I went all the way up to 3, the question is, what is that distance? Well, if you have a number line in front of you, it's fairly easy to determine that distance. You just look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But today's objective is going to take that and relate it to absolute values and subtraction, because in 7th grade we're required to develop the idea that finding distances on the number line is the same as taking the difference between the two endpoints and finding that absolute value. So what we're going to do is we just take the two endpoints. Let's start with -4 and 3. What you do is you put a subtraction sign between them, absolute value around them. That's going to give you the distance between those 2 points on a number line. So again, there's no double signs, so I just work within the absolute value, circle the sign that goes with the number. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are the same. I'll find the sum. The sum of 3 and 4 is 7. What do I have more of? Oh, I only have negatives running around. I have 4 negatives. I have 3 more negatives. I'm up to 7 negatives. But don't lose that absolute value. Absolute value gives you distance, because absolute value at the end of the day creates a positive number. It's a distance on a number line. So a distance can never be negative, so the absolute value won't turn out to be negative. Absolute value of 7 is a positive 7. It doesn't matter the order you put your endpoints. If I had put my 3 first, and then I did subtraction, then I put my other endpoint in of a -4, that works also. So we're going to take the absolute value of 3 minus a -4. This time we do have a double sign. Minus a negative we know becomes a plus. So your next step would be 3 plus 4, still with the absolute value around it. 3 plus 4 we know is 7, still with the absolute value. Absolute value just means what's the distance on the number line? Absolute value of 7. That's 7 units on the number line. So I know if we have this visual here, or we draw this visual for ourselves, it's very easy to find the distance between two numbers on a number line. However, in 7th grade, you must transition from that and be able to apply the definition of that distance, which is taking the difference of the absolute value of the two endpoints will give you the distance. Let's connect the following distance between two numbers on a number line to the absolute value of their difference. So again, I'm going to work this one out with you. So if I find the distance between 5 and 14 on a number line, well, if you have a number line in front of you, it's very easy to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you know that that distance between 5 and 14 would be 9. However, mathematically, if you take the absolute value of the difference means to subtract, between those two endpoints, you will get their distance. So 5 minus 14, well, all I do is circle the sign that goes with the number. If I don't see a sign in front of the 5, I know it's a positive. So are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are different. I'll find the difference. What's the difference between 14 and 5? 14 minus 5, your scrap work off to the side, that's a 9. What do I have more of here? Well, I have 5 positives. I have 14 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What do I have more of? Oh my gosh, I have more negatives. How many more negatives? I have 9 extra negatives. Do not lose that absolute value. So then, once I take that difference with the two endpoints, I get a -9. The absolute value of -9 is 9. So that difference within the absolute value gives you the distance on the number line once that absolute value is taken. Let's take a look at it the other way. You can put your end points in either order. I don't care if you put the 5 first and the 14 second, or the 14 first and the 5 second. If you take the absolute value of the difference between those two endpoints, you will get the distance on the number line. 14 minus 5, we've been doing that for years. 14 minus 5 is 9. Absolute value of 9, absolute value is just a distance. Absolute value of 9, that's 9 units between those two. What I'd like you to do is, if you're able to, I'd like you to attempt this one on your own. Again, there's that number line there to help support you. However, after you go ahead on the number line, you need to check it with our definition, the fact that distance on the number line means the absolute value of the difference between those two endpoints. And so what you can do is you can find the distance on the number line, and then you'll prove it using the definition, absolute value of the difference between the two endpoints. I'd like you to pause the video if you can, try it out. If you need to stick with me, I'll walk you through this one. So the distance between -7 and -2 on a number line is not too bad. -7 to -2, like, okay, what's that distance? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in between. A distance would never be negative. You don't say, I'm going to walk a -5 miles to school. Distance is always positive. That's how I know when you talk about a distance on a number line, it must be positive, which is why these absolute values are so important. So now let's take the difference between the endpoints. I work within the absolute value. Minus a negative, we know becomes plus, double sign to a single sign. So then I have absolute value of -7 plus 2. I circle the sign that goes with the number. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are different. I'll find the difference. The difference between 7 and 2 is 5. What do I have more of? Well, let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negatives. I only have 2 positives. What do I have more of? I definitely have more negatives. How many more negatives? 5 extra negatives. I keep that absolute value. Absolute value of -5. Absolute value takes the number within, makes it positive, because absolute value means distance on the number line. Now, I could have taken the endpoints in the other order. I could have put in -2 first. I could have put in the 7 second, but I need to take the -7 second, but I need to take the difference of those within absolute value to find the distance. Minus a negative becomes plus. So then we have -2 plus 7. Keep those absolute value symbols. Circle the sign that goes with the number. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are different. Find the difference. The difference between 7 and 2 is 5. What do you have more of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positives, only 2 negatives. All right, I definitely have more positives. How many more positives? 5 extra positives. That answer will be a positive, but don't lose that absolute value sign. Absolute value just means the distance on the number line. Absolute value always takes whatever the number is within and makes it positive. So if it was positive, it stays positive. If on the inside of absolute value is negative, it creates a positive. Let's try a word problem. If the temperature drops from 7 degrees Fahrenheit to -9 degrees Fahrenheit, how much did the temperature decrease? Okay. So this is a vertical number line because obviously with temperature, we look at thermometers. Thermometers, are vertically drawn. So if I look at this and I say, okay, I'm at 7. I got to head way down here to -9. What's that distance? That's the question here. So I'm going to show you in a minute on the number line what that distance definitely is, but let's go ahead and just use our mathematical method. Distance on a number line, absolute value of the difference. And here's one issue is, we might end up discussing altitudes above and below sea level. If something is 500 feet below sea level and a mountain is, something at the bottom of a lake, I have no idea, 500 feet below sea level and a mountain is 2,864 feet above sea level, what's the distance between that low point in the lake and the high point on the mountain? You don't want to create a number line that goes from negative 500 to a positive 2,000 and something. So you're going to then want to fall back on the mathematical method. So we're doing problems that are easy to see on the number line. You need to also be comfortable with this mathematical method. So if I take my endpoints, I take the difference within absolute values. Minus a negative, we know becomes a plus. So that's the absolute value of 7 plus 9. 7 plus 9 is 16. Absolute value of 16 is 16. We could have looked at our endpoints the other way. I wonder if I did on this example. Maybe I did not. Yes, I did. Okay, so here there are no double signs to a single sign, so we can just circle the sign that goes with the number. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are the same. I'll find the sum. The sum of 9 and 7 is 16. Then I say, what do I have more of? Well, I have 9 negatives. I have 7 more negatives. I only have negative running around, so that's a negative 16. There's our scrap work. Absolute value of a negative. The definition for absolute value is just a distance. So that would be from 0 to negative 16 would be 16 units on the number line. So that's 16. And again, we can verify that here. 7 to 0 is 7 units. From 0 to negative 9 is 9 more units. So that becomes 16 units as that distance. Simplify the following. So what I'd like you to do is, at this point, you should pause the video. Definitely be sure you can simplify the following on your own, and then I'll come back and just have the answers for you. All right, hopefully you did that. So minus a negative becomes plus, so that's 3 plus 6. Absolute value of 9 is 9. Minus a negative becomes a plus. Absolute value of negative 3 plus 6. Circle the sign that goes with the number. Signs are different. I find the difference. I have more positives. Absolute value of positive 3 is 3. Negative 4 minus 2. Signs are the same. I'm going to find the sum. That becomes a 6. What do I have more of? I only have negatives running around. Absolute value of negative 6 is 6. 6 minus 8. No double signs, so I just circle the sign that goes with the number. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are different. I'm going to find the difference. The difference between 8 and 6 is 2. What do I have more of? I definitely have more negatives. There's 8 negatives running around, only 6 positives. So we're going to take the absolute value of negative 2 is a 2. Hopefully those worked out okay for you. What I need you to do is your exit ticket. If you're waiting for me to check your exit ticket, move to the next video.